Welcome to the Women on the Rise podcast. I'm Jen Blandos, the host of the podcast and the founder of Female Fusion. This is where I bring to you the world's best entrepreneurs and leading experts that will help you start, build, grow, and scale your business. Welcome to another episode of Women on the Rise, and I am live from our studio in London with Dr. Romie Mushtaq, who has been on my dream list of people to have on the podcast for a very long time. And I've been so fortunate to get her in the studio in London today to talk all things entrepreneurship, busy brain, and everything else that she's going to share with her wisdom. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Romie.
My sister, Jen. I am having all the feels right now sitting here with you. I think of the container you hold not only for Female Fusion, but for global successful women entrepreneurs like myself. We envisioned this moment together almost 2 years ago when I told you I had signed the book deal with HarperCollins. You were like, this book is going to go global. You believed in me. I'm going to have you on my podcast. And in all those moments where I was in the darkness, you've been that ray of light. And the fact that we're here today, I am full of so much gratitude. That is the power of Jen Blandos. It is the power of Female Fusion. Ooh, let's get started. This is going to be a juicy conversation.
It is. I'm so excited. So you launched your book at the beginning of the year, and you are a best-selling author.
Thank you.
USA Today.
Yes.
You have received numerous accolades for your book, The Busy Brain Cure.
Thank you.
All over not only national TV in America, but you've been speaking internationally as well. And you are the expert in this area. Maybe just for people who don't know you, maybe just tell them a little bit about you and what you do.
It is. I was raised by STEMinists, and that was to be a doctor from birth. It was a vision of my mom, my dad, and the aunties that you'll read all about in The Busy Brain Cure. I entered neurology at a time where less than 5% of brain doctors in America were women. Not only was I seeing patients, I was doing cutting-edge research on women's hormones and the brain, and I loved my job until my mind, my body, and my spirit burnt out. I ended up in life-saving surgery and on a global healing journey to understand how to heal. And from that came a business, which is now the Brain Shift Institute, where I go into global associations and corporations, Fortune 500 companies in America, and transform workplace cultures around mental health and culture around leading a culture of wellness. And that I do that through keynote speaking and workplace wellness consulting. And that research led me to develop an innovative cure for individuals and teams on healing burnout and finding hope again. And that is in the USA Today best-selling and international Amazon best-selling, The Busy Brain Cure, the 8-week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. And I'm holding it up and I'm going to hand it to you. You believed in this book. Every time I was hitting a strategic wall in busy brain myself, like Jen, you believed in this moment for me. There's a 500-to-1 ratio in America that a male PhD or MD will get a traditional published book deal compared to a woman MD. And you were there the entire time. Oh. Thank you, sister.
Thank you, Dr. Romie.
Yeah.
And it is such an important topic. And this is why I believe so much in you, that you have so much knowledge and wisdom to share. And what is also important as well is that we have women who are standing up and talking about this, because so much of the science out there is focused on men.
Yes, girl.
The research is focused on
Preach,
men.
sister.
Right. And women are impacted so much by this, and especially entrepreneurial women. And I see this all the time within Female Fusion, is that so many female entrepreneurs are hitting burnout, have burned out, have on the road to recovery from burnout, and it shouldn't have to be that way.
No, you know what I see is a lot of women entrepreneurs globally and in the United States exit a toxic work situation, education, medicine, the corporate life, and they have this shiny dream from the Instagram ads of just follow this funnel and you can make millions and be a successful entrepreneur. And they need hope, but they want the quick fix, and there is no quick fix. And you have to heal the burnout before you jump to the next hamster wheel. Otherwise, most female entrepreneurs are actually starting at a disadvantage for their brain and mental function as entrepreneurs. And it ends up being a busy brain, which you and I are going to unpack in a second. Yeah.
Well, we had you as our keynote speaker at Female Fusion Live this week. Yeah. And one of the topics that came up at Female Fusion Live was the whole idea of like entrepreneurial project, shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
Explain to everybody like what that means.
Okay. So, we know shiny object syndrome. If you have children or nieces or nephews or grandchildren, you know that they're obsessed over one toy or thing, and you get it for them and they're on to the next. The shiny object syndrome. For entrepreneurs, I call it the shiny entrepreneurial project syndrome. You listen to Jen's award-winning podcast, you're in one of your live events, you sit in a mastermind full of women, you see the Instagram ads, and your brain is quickly jumping. You think it's because you're a multi-passionate entrepreneur who is creative. But what really is you have a lot of ideas. And because you have a busy brain, it could be the next $1 million or $1 billion idea, but you fail to execute on it. And you can't even organize your brain, let alone your KPIs. And in your brain right now, you're like, are blogs dead? Do I need to write a blog for SEO on my website? Oh, I'm listening to Jen's podcast. I need to start a podcast. I need to write a best-selling book. I want to be a professional keynote speaker like Dr. Romie. Wait, I had this great product idea that'll innovate, children's toys and toxicity, and you're all over the place. That is the shiny entrepreneurial project syndrome. You barely have a quick start on one thing and you jump to the next. And by the time your year end is done, you not only have neglected your profit and loss statement, you don't believe in KPIs because you think that's just for corporate. You're no better than you were at the beginning of the year. And that can cause financial stress for most of us and lead to failure and further burnout.
This happens to
so
us. Many. It happens to all of us, right?
All of us. Let's be real. Yeah.
And I think we need to be honest about that.
Yes.
One of the things that I say to our members as well, because it is hard, like when we have so many different types of entrepreneurs at so many different levels, you want to talk about all the tools that people have. But I think it's so important to understand that you can't do everything. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you're the jack of all trades, but the master of none.
Yes.
And it's better to choose one thing and do that really well, or two things and do that really well.
No, one thing. One thing, Jen.
Okay,
one thing and do it well, and then go to the next thing. When you have a busy brain, you can't focus. So every idea seems like the next $1 million idea. You don't have awareness that I may not have the team, the time, or the treasure, your money, the team, the time, and the treasure to execute on that one idea. You don't know what it's going to take to test that one idea to see, is it actually going to bring in revenue? Your brain can't focus on if you need immediate cash flow, which, girl, we've all been there. In the pandemic, I was like, what could bring me in cash flow? Like in 3 minutes.
Spaghetti at the wall, right?
And no, this is not about throwing spaghetti on the wall. Yeah. It's when you brain shift and you can focus, you know exactly what your time, treasure, and your team can do to bring in that revenue on the table. And all the brilliant ideas that are coming, you put in the idea place. And this is where I think you need two things. You need an honest business coach that has a record of working with entrepreneurs at your level and above, not just the ones that are advertising on Instagram. And the two thing, you need a network. Like Jen and I met because we're in the collective mastermind group. And you heard me say this over and over again yesterday. Your network is your net worth. And when one person in your network has a busy brain, it will infect everybody. But when one of us has brain shifted and calm, we can cut through the chaos so that if I'm talking about writing my second book and you're talking about scaling your podcast, my busy brain isn't going to think, oh, I need to start a podcast. And your busy brain isn't going to be like, oh, I need to write a book. We stay focused on that single revenue stream. Yeah.
So how would you suggest because we're going to have women who are listening to this who are going to go, that's me.
I'm guilty.
I'm guilty.
Yes.
I hold my hand up.
Me too.
And, I'm thinking, I can imagine a lot of the women listening who I know have busy brains.
Yeah.
Give me practical,
Let's start there.
implementable steps that we can take to
Absolutely
unpack all of that.
We're going to talk about your brain, and then we're going to talk about the implementable steps in your business. Could we do that? Brain and business.
Yes.
And I'm going to lean on you to fill in the business gaps as well. Let's talk about your busy brain. What is a busy brain? Listen, nobody wants to be told on this podcast or 3 tips or tricks on Instagram Reels. Just eat berries and breathe and look at this picture of a puppy hugging a unicorn and everything is going to be just fine. Those things are outdated research and brain science based in the acute stress model that was maybe relevant prior to the pandemic. I gave the busy brain test as a part of my research to over 17,000 men and women in a 2-year period between 2020 and 2022. I got to see firsthand what was chronic stress and burnout in a post-pandemic world doing to high-functioning people, like all of your audience at Female Fusion. And one key thing that I learned was chronic stress will cause neuroinflammation in a particular part of our brain. And it causes 3 key symptoms: adult onset ADHD or ADD, anxiety, that you're overthinking every decision and every email you're sending, and insomnia. That 72-point checklist is running a marathon in your brain and preventing you from going to bed or waking you up in the middle of the night and you're like, ooh, it's quiet. Let me knock out a few social media posts. What that looks like for an entrepreneur is everything feels like an emergency and you're wasting time creating an Instagram reel, hoping that next reel goes viral and your business goes through the roof, and you've not done your taxes. Or you're avoiding sending that email to a lead. Somebody handed you a business card at one of the Female Fusion events, and you're avoiding reaching out to them to partner with them. You're procrastinating or the perfectionism, and then you're doing the least important thing that your brain has somehow fooled you to be like, your business is going to die if you don't get that Instagram reel up right now, girl. Yes, that's what a busy brain is.
And it's so funny how so much of it goes back to the reels, right? Because I see so many people that they're like, oh, I have to have like that video content and that reel. And it's not that is not what is going to help you grow your business and bring the money in.
No, I want to be real. I mean, there were people at your live event in London. There are people in our collective who have monetized Instagram or Facebook. That was only after they tested their revenue stream. I'm an example, and so are you, of scaling a multi-7 and now 7-figure business without using Instagram and TikTok, because that is not where my audience was.
Well, and that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
we'll
But
do
it's not,
we'll do that in the next one.
It's also as well just understanding who your audience is and where they are, because you get trapped into this where you're doing the scroll and it's like, oh, they tell me if I do this on Instagram, or they tell me if I do this in my business.
They're fueling a busy brain.
Yeah.
And I talk about this in chapter 9 of the book, that the reason when I entered neurology and psychiatry in the 1990s, we did not have a diagnosis such as adult onset ADHD. It is a diagnosis now, Jen, because of the multi-digital device use and the way we're using devices. Think about it. For those of you, I was just telling the producer, Stephen, I'm kind of aghast here in London. He had never seen a episode in a movie of Star Wars. And I was like, you need to go home and like watch Star Wars. But if you're a Star Wars fan or you haven't watched Star Wars and you're going to put it up on Netflix tonight or Amazon or however you get your movies globally, could you sit and watch a movie without picking up your phone and checking your social media or emails or Slack channel? Most of us are watching TV with a laptop and a phone open. How about you?
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's multi-digital device use. Look at your work desk. How many screens are there? How many things are popping up? Multiple browser windows open on your computer and in your brain. That is what has rewired our brains as adults to reduce attention span and focus. and start to fuel this neuroinflammation. And I go deep into the science about this, but you asked me for tips or tricks. So the first thing is know your brain score. We're going to put a link to the free Busy Brain test. I want you to know your brain score. You know your credit score. You know your business score. I need you. You know your shoe size, sisters. I know you know your shoe size. And you know the difference between the European brands and the American brand's shoe size and the UK shoes. I need you to know your brain score. And we'll put a link to the Busy Brain test. And if you scored above a 30, we have an 8-week plan here for you.
And, I took the brain test.
Yes.
And I'll be the first one to hold my hand up. I scored a 60.
Girl, I ain't surprised.
Yeah. So
I've been that nagging sister. Like, will you please get your labs that are in chapter 16? Yes. And how about we all be accountable together? So I have to go for my yearly labs. I've been traveling for my book tour all over the United States and now globally. I'm 1 month overdue to check my labs. How about, Jen, we be each other's accountability partners and model it?
Absolutely. And I'm happy to share that as well and put it on social media because I think it's it's important to share that journey. And I think it's one of the things that I've been trying to work out and unbusy my brain a bit because I recognize, and I was explaining to somebody, they were asking me what it felt like to have a busy brain. And I said, to me, it feels like I have all these ideas flying around within my head, but I wasn't able to organize them in a systematic way to identify where the priorities are and to make the right decisions for me. Now, I'm one thing I'm going to reveal on the podcast that I haven't publicly, and we've spoken about this, and I'm going to do more medical tests, is that I was diagnosed with ADHD in March, and it was something that I just felt that something wasn't right within my brain. So I have been taking Concerta, and that's something
which is fine,
which has absolutely been working.
If a doctor diagnoses you and says you need the medicine, and it is, thank you for that open-hearted honesty. So many women listening are going to relate to you, and thank you for that. And I also share my story in the book, and I couldn't focus, and they tried ADHD medicines on me, and my anxiety got worse. And I had an inkling that they had missed my thyroid diagnosis. We both have talked about this. And I'm a woman doctor going to male colleagues saying, please check it. They only checked 1 instead of the 8 labs you need. And my thyroid disease was missed. And 1 in 8 women has an underdiagnosed or poorly treated thyroid. And most of us women who have a thyroid issue or adrenal, guess what the symptoms are? I can't focus and I'm feeling anxious. So you get put on an anti-anxiety medicine. You get put on an ADHD medicine, or you get put on supplements to help you focus, like a nootropic and a natural medicine to sleep, but we're still not getting to the root cause. And that's why I want us to get labs. If you are a woman over the age of 22 and you have your period, I want you to check it, because a busy brain can be the only symptoms of polycystic ovarian syndrome, thyroid dysfunction, adrenal fatigue, so endometriosis, perimenopause, coming early, menopause. And how many women at your event yesterday were like, oh, Dr. Romie, do you think it's perimenopause? I'm like, well, I need your symptoms and let's get your brain score. And also please get your labs.
Yeah.
And we put a lab slip. This is the thing, one of the things that I'm so proud that we hacked in this book. To work with doctors like me one-to-one can cost thousands of dollars or pounds or euros. We put a lab slip in this book that is covered by NHS, covered by the European healthcare systems, by American insurance systems. They are normal labs to get. And so most people will not need to go outside their insurance system or pay a lot of money. I omitted the integrative and functional medicine tests that can cost a lot of money globally. We wanted to make this accessible to everybody. So 85 to 90% of the diagnosis is going to come from these simple labs.
And I love that. And I, with me mentioning that I'd been diagnosed with ADHD, when we spoke about the tests and all of that, I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? Like, I want to dig further to make sure that it's not also some of these other issues that you were talking about. And I think for us as women, that's really important, that we owe it to ourselves to really dig. And I love as well that you're not only a neurologist, that you're also an integrative medicine doctor. And that means that you're not one of those doctors that's pushing pills and
Yeah.
here's your symptom, here's a medication. It's
Yeah.
more, let's look at the root cause
Absolutely.
of this
Yes.
and find out how we can treat you rather than
Yeah.
stuffing you full of meds.
You know, it's the one thing that I really have a hard time with on social media today, Jen, and the world. We're so divided that people are either, I just want traditional medicine and science, and I'm not going to listen to the global healing traditions, or I only want natural things, and I'm not going to go to a traditional doctor. And my presence can be triggering for all of those reasons. I'm a bridge builder. And I think the way forward in business is to be that bridge builder and bringing both Eastern and Western medicine together, because both can be wrong alone. A pill for your ill or a supplement for your symptoms, and we haven't gotten down to the root cause. And that's what this book does. And hormones is just one category. But when you do this and you get the right treatment, the results are profound. It is how I now have stacked year after year multiple revenue streams, and I can keep focused. And when an idea comes, it goes in the idea journal. I schedule time with my business coach, Pam Slim, once a year just to go through the ideas, love on the ideas, fantasize about the ideas, look at my team, my time, my treasure, and say, what makes sense for my business vision and mission? And could I give a concrete example of this
Yes,
that
I'd
you
love
had to
that.
coach
Yeah,
me
yeah,
out of?
yeah.
I was 3 months out from a global launch of this book. And I am a busy chief wellness officer doing corporate wellness consulting, a busy keynote speaker. And my busy brain, I had too many cooks in the kitchen, too many consultants, too many best-selling authors pulling me in 72 different directions of what I needed to do for this book launch. And I was going against my gut instinct and what I had pitched to HarperCollins and leading authorities. I came with that mess in my business kitchen to you, and I was like, put together the ingredients and please take out the things off the menu. Sometimes you need somebody that's not in a busy brain about your business to look at it. And that's the magic of you, Jen, and Female Fusion, and getting to work with you one-on-one. In less than 30 minutes, you cleaned up the strategy for me. And so I have moments of a busy brain. And when you're clear and focused, when the example was people were telling me, Dr. Romie, start a podcast. That's ludicrous to start a podcast 3 months before your book launch. No. My time and treasure went to a PR agency that specializes in podcasts. We did over 100 interviews. We blocked off my time. That took away from speaking revenue. I mean, to record 100 podcasts, wow. And it worked, along with a strategy that was out of the box, which was you could see it clearly for me. Romie, you've got a lot of corporate clients. They're going to buy bulk books. That is what put me into the USA Today bestseller list in week 1.
Yeah.
And that is what happens when you have a busy brain. And in your business, you have somebody who can get you focused and just clear through the mud. And then here's the thing, be decisive. When you get that advice, I didn't go to 10 other people. This is what Jen thought. Should I do this or not? I was like, I trust my sister Jen. We laid it out. It felt good in my gut because I don't have a busy brain. So intuition, I was like, we're going to nail the podcast interviews. We're going to nail the book orders. And, we sold out of our first print run in under 3 months, which as a first-time author, the publisher didn't expect. And these are, so you're hearing me say, you cleaned up my mess. I had a KPI. I had deliverables in my business. That's all I stayed focused on. When someone gave me another shiny entrepreneurial project for my book launch, I was like, is it going to feed into these KPIs? No.
And then you kick it out.
You kick it out.
You kick it out.
You kick it out and say, this, it's like an outfit that doesn't fit. Don't try to stuff yourself in it, sister.
Yeah. I wish that more entrepreneurs
Yeah.
would see this.
Yeah.
And it's such a great example. And it was such a joy to see you launch your book and so successfully become a bestseller. What would be your advice for other women if they go and get the lab tests and all of that? What would be some of the first steps that they could look at to now moving towards getting rid of that clutter?
It is. Let's talk about, I kind of want to go to boosting daytime energy, which is weeks 5 through 8 of the brain shift protocol. We've already done week 1, which is know your brain score. We've done week 7, which is get your labs. I really want to talk about how we're fueling ourselves during the daytime, because there's a lot of confusion out there for women. Should I be paleo? Should I be keto? Should I be intermittent fasting? And you know what? If you work with an integrative medicine doctor like me and they give you the right plan for your body and hormones, great. But if not, we wanted to biohack it in a simple way, which was, I firmly believe that diets and calorie limiting cleanses will make our lives more miserable. We rob ourselves of joy. We rob ourselves of social connection. We actually raise stress hormone levels in the brain. Temporarily, you feel good because you're like, oh, I got through day one of eating no carbs and I counted my macros. But that's a superficial dopamine high and you're really suffering. This is the only time when I gave this research behind this to the American Psychological Association as a keynote. This is the one time in my speaking career I got a standing ovation in the middle of the talk. This diet culture is harming us. So what do we do instead? We schedule comfort foods once to twice a week. And last night I got to have Darjeeling Express, amazing Bengali food in London with Jen, or food from Calcutta. Then the other hack you do is, if you're going to eat a food that spikes your blood sugar, which is white potatoes, white rice, white bread, white flour, white sugar, then no caffeine for 1 hour before or after. If you're going to have hot tea, iced tea, coffee, matcha, anything with caffeine, even a supplement with caffeine, then none of those carbs. So no more croissants and coffee or tea and biscuits. I'm so sorry.
I had no idea. Well, I was like, when you said that, my favorite food, chips.
Amazing. Okay.
So I was like, no cups of tea before or after the chips.
Exactly, for 1 hour. And the reason is can I talk about the science really quickly?
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. We have insulin receptors in our brain that are required to keep us focusing and our memory clear. And when we spike our blood sugar, those insulin receptors are now strained to make sure your blood sugar doesn't spike in your brain, which is very dangerous. Now, when you add caffeine to that and the adenosine receptors, it's almost like you had a forest fire and you're adding gasoline to it. And the fire is just going up in flames. That's why we can't focus. And that's why we get anxious, because our brain chemicals are spiking and dropping, not just our blood sugar. And so the things we need to keep focused and calm and in control, our brain, we're undoing that. So pick one or the other. The second step is adding a healthy fat to every meal. That's weeks 5 and 6. It's so simple. And Jen, we put 1,000 executives through this protocol. Not only do people reduce their brain bloating, they reduce their belly bloating. And imagine, like, this jacket wouldn't be so snug, and all of that. But yeah, and it's so simple. People can't believe it, but it works.
But I hear this and it's so simple, but it's like, why don't we learn this stuff? Like, rather than being told, you have to eat this or eat that, is having that understanding. And it's such a shame that we're not taught that, because I like to think I'm a pretty smart woman about health and nutrition.
Yes.
I eat pretty healthy and clean. I'm a vegan, but I had no idea.
You had no idea. And here's the thing, as a chief wellness officer for over 12,000 employees, I want a group like you've created in Female Fusion, where the vegans, people who eat halal, people who love meat, paleo, intermittent fasting, the carb lovers, the busy mom who just grabbed whatever food she could out of the refrigerator for lunch and prayed it doesn't have mold on it. Like, we all need to be able to sit down and eat at one table without judging one another. And it's good for the mind, the body, and the spirit to have joy. And why didn't we know about it before? Well, because we need more women in medicine and doing research. Yeah. And this is brand new research. This is why I'm so excited about this book. This is brand new medical research that we are sharing globally to change the paradigm on how we're treating mental and brain health in companies for both men and women.
I love that. Yeah. And I know the book can be bought pretty much on Amazon everywhere in the world.
Globally,
as well.
And in 8 languages. Amazon, where books are sold, a Waterstone here in the United Kingdom, Barnes & Nobles in America, on Audible, on Kindle. Yes.
I love the Audible version because you narrate it, and you're very good at having your auntie's voices and doing that.
It's really important to bring that up. The inner critic and self-judgment voice. This is a really important message to women. we do the inner critic work. We do the heal your inner child work, and the inner critic will always come up. That's actually the busy brain. When you cure the busy brain, that actually dampens. We all have moments of fear, especially when you're scaling. And my inner critic comes in the voices of my judgmental Indian aunties like, oh, hi, you're sitting in London on a global podcast, and not once have you said you are looking for your second husband. Right? Like that is that inner critic and voice. But when we calm a busy brain, it doesn't even show up. Or when it does, you're like, that's not true. Like, let me focus on what I set out to do today. And if my aunties have visited your brain, my apologies. They can be judgmental sometimes, but heal a busy brain and they turn into the voice of wisdom and hope.
That's amazing. And so your book, it's an 8-week protocol, and people will see after following it, doing the lab tests, slightly amending their diet as well, that they'll really see a big difference in unbusying their brain.
You're going to fall asleep without thoughts and worries of the day hijacking you. You're going to stay asleep through the night. That's going to help you focus and cut down the stress eating. So people just naturally lose weight, and you're still eating comfort food and having meals with loved ones. I think as an entrepreneur, what's important is it's no longer shiny entrepreneurial project syndrome. You are that now multi-passionate, creative entrepreneur, but you're so clear on your mission and vision that you're able to say, what is the revenue stream I am focusing on this year? What are my quarterly sprints or KPIs to get to that point? If this other idea comes, I'm going to park it. And in my yearly strategy with my mastermind group or a business coach like Jen, I'm going to sit down and say, does this fit into the vision and the strategy of what I need? And can I give an example? Was, the first thing I did was I was seeing patients when I got the additional training in integrative medicine. I focused on that, and it gave me the skill set to work with high achieving people. Then we focused on the keynote speaking for years. Then we focused on the corporate wellness consulting, and then the research for this book. It's like year after year. And some of these things took 2 years because you're refining, you're testing, you're refining, you're testing. We've thrown out a lot of things along the way that didn't bring in revenue. And that's what happens when you heal your busy brain.
When you heal your busy brain and you focus on one thing, and it sounds, I think to so many entrepreneurs, it seems counterintuitive that they're like, no, I need to have a revenue stream here, and I need to have one here, and I need to have one there. And actually, if they slow the brain down, they have one revenue stream.
Yeah.
Or a couple of revenue streams if they've healed their busy brain and they're at that level in their business, that they will find that they're more profitable.
Absolutely.
Than when they were trying to do the 10 before.
Well, because you know this and you talk about this, is in order to now, I have multiple revenue streams. We built them and tested them one at a time.
Yes.
We had to scale team and time and investment into those, right? And you can't, if you have a busy brain, you're going to drive your team mad because they think this month that they're working on your LinkedIn strategy, and all of a sudden you're like, we're launching a course, surprise. And you're now an ineffective leader.
Yeah.
And I think I hear that a lot when people come to work on my team. We have a lot of contractors. They're like working in other businesses. They were like, I'm relieved when I come to a team meeting with you. We're so focused week after week, quarter after quarter. It is joyful to be here. And when emergencies arise, they're ready because we've been calm sailing.
Yeah. It makes so much sense. And I think there has been this movement in entrepreneurship that it's almost seemed cool that you have been doing 10 things at once, but people are hitting burnout.
Well, they're hitting burnout, and that's why less than 2% of women make 7 figures in business. And people have you focused on the wrong thing. You think you have to grow that Instagram or TikTok following when your audience is really not even sitting there, when you haven't properly market tested your product.
Exactly.
And I think that's the issue that can happen. And so for those of us that have, like you and I, taken years to build multiple revenue streams, it has taken time. It has taken a lot of team. It has taken a lot of money and treasure. And we've all had those busy brain moments. And I thank God when I was in the middle of ready to launch this book, I came to you. You saved me tens and thousands of dollars in under 30 minutes. But even more than that, you saved my sanity, and you could see into my intuition of what we needed to do, and it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy that I was able to help you, because it's such a joy to see the book and to see it helping so many people. And I really believe as well that we're going to get these blood tests done.
Yes, we are.
We are going to report back on that.
On social
We'll
media,
do it on
that we did our
social
lab,
media.
that we did our
We did our
labs.
labs,
Yes.
and I'll share that as well,
Yeah.
because I'm really interested
Yes.
as well to see what that looks like.
Yeah. And I'm on hormones right now, so I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. And
Absolutely, you can.
we both just celebrated our 50th birthday this year. Like, there's just this sisterhood here for us. And I will say, because I brain shift, I'm cognitively sharper today than at 25 when I graduated from medical school. And I have my thyroid fixed. I am on other hormones for perimenopause. And girl, I'm glowed up. I am living my dream life.
Yes.
The best is ahead of you, sisters. Just fix that busy brain. And we're here to hold that hope that whatever your entrepreneurial dream is, that you execute on it.
Dr. Romie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It is such an honor to have you share all of this. And I know that the wisdom that you shared today is going to help so many women. And please do take the quiz, find out where your brain is, but then also as well, go and get the test done, and absolutely order Dr. Romie's book. You can find this on Amazon. And I believe as well that we have some extra copies within Female Fusion as well. So if you're a member, come and speak with us too. We have some of Dr. Romie's books. Thanks for being on the podcast.
An absolute honor. I'll end with this. My sisters, your brain is not broken. Your mind is not a mess. And hope did not depart your soul. You're not alone. Jen and I are here with you. We invite you to brain shift.
Thanks, Dr. Romie.
I don't know about you, but social media can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes as a business owner. It just feels like there is constant work that always needs to be done, which is why I have recorded for you a completely free 45-minute masterclass called Marketing Without Social Media. And inside, I share with you my tools and techniques that I use to grow Female Fusion and the other businesses that I have had. So I give you the tools, the techniques, and the frameworks to put that in place in your own business. All you need to do is head over to femalefusionnetwork.com/marketing.